Good morning, everybody. This is Martin John, and we're here to talk about the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written about 600 BCE and consists of 81 chapters or verses of enigmatic wisdom that helps us live a more reasonable life. So much of the Tao, as we were talking yesterday, can't be expressed in words. And yet, this is filled with words, although not many, that help us live a more reasonable life. And that might seem paradoxical, but that is life. Life is a paradox. So what we're looking at today is just more Tao. And what I like to do is pick a number and figure out what it says. I want to look a number up. Of Weapons and Mourning, number 31. I'm going to look up number 31 today. If you have a number you want to select, I would love to chat with you. So please step up and we can talk a little bit about the Tao Te Ching. If you've heard this show before, you know how it goes. What I like to do is say hello to you and chat a little bit. And then I ask you to pick a number between 1 and 81 and we talk about the Tao. Olive, how are you? Olive Fairy? Olive, this is Tao of the Day. And here we look at the Tao Te Ching, which is an ancient text written about 600 BCE. It consists of 81 chapters. What I like to do is bring on guests, chat with them a little bit about what's going on in their lives, and then ask them to pick a number between 1 and 81. That happens to be like a oracle deck or a tarot deck, and what we end up doing is we look at a number that talks a little bit about or addresses something that you can look at from a different perspective, get a little insight on, and then be able to grow and learn from the Tao. So if you'd like to pick a number, please, you can step up and we can have a little conversation about like what's going on in your life. And then you can pick a number between 1 and 81. As I mentioned earlier, I am going to read number 31. And we'll see where this takes us. Number 31 is my Tao for the day. If you have a number that you'd like to select, please step up and we can chat about that. Number 31 is entitled Of Weapons and Mourning. Mourning, M-O-U-R-N-I-N-G. I.e. like mourning the death of something or mourning the loss of something. Okay, so weapons are horrible tools. The master avoids weaponizing anything. Weapons promote fear and separation, avoided by those who walk in blessing, embraced by those who walk in delusion. If compelled to use them, she uses restraint. There is no glory in victory if weapons are used. Her enemy is not evil, but human like herself. How can she see glory in their slaughter? When the master is compelled to engage a weapon, she does so gravely and filled with compassion, knowing that this is the first state of her mourning. What a great way to look at weaponizing things. We don't look at that. We don't look at things this way today, do we? We weaponize just about anything. And it's so unfortunate. We weaponize our words. We weaponize our actions. The whole idea of quiet quitting is weaponizing your actions, right? Like weaponizing your actions against your job. And that's fine. Like I don't have a problem with any of these things, but it is weaponizing. If you are drawn, if you are pushed to the point that you have to weaponize an action or weaponize your words or weaponize what you do or weaponize who you are or your position or whatever, the idea is that this is not like this is a loss to your life. This is a loss to your, for you to be everything that you can be. Now we all have to go through lessons in our life, and if we weaponize something and then we eventually go, oh man, how much time did I waste doing that? That's a lesson for us to learn so that we can grow and not have to weaponize those things of which we do. Once again, at the end, it says, knowing this is the first state of her mourning. This is the first state of mourning, having weaponized something. Mourning for this other person, mourning for this decision, mourning for this other entity because of our choice to weaponize something. Weapons are horrible tools. The master avoids weaponizing anything. Can you think of things that you have weaponized in your life? Your words to cut someone down, your actions to maybe make someone less relevant, or your actions to oppose anything. Weapons promote fear and separation. The more you utilize weapons, the more you're engaging with the concepts of fear and separation. You're afraid of something. You're afraid of something happening to you, right? Like we have cancel culture that weaponizes as well. And we've separated into two factions. I don't know how we've done this. Two factions that really don't have anything to stand on, don't have any, like the entire world is now us against them. And that's the only reason that two sides exist. Because we're all together, we're all connected. The other person, the person on the other side of the aisle, the person on the other side of your argument, they're human just like you, and they're faulty just like you, and they're under the influence, and they're trying to exist and doing the best that they can all the time, and still it's not enough, and still they're needing to be given leeway or love or whatever. Yeah, it's tough, but especially when everyone around us is picking up weapons, weaponizing so much. So much of our world right now is being weaponized. Advertising and marketing. They say, in the gold rush, the people who made the most consistent money were the people that sold the shovels, not the people who are actually out there digging gold. And right now, everybody's starting a business. So who's making money? Everybody that's like selling tools to people that are starting businesses. We know that when you put those blinders on and you can only look in one direction, you become a sucker because you can't see the whole landscape. And people utilize that for their advantage and possibly your disadvantage, which means there's weaponizing involved. Weapons promote fear and separation, avoided by those who walk in blessing, embraced by those who walk in delusion. Now, I want to recognize the fact that this is avoided by those who walk in blessing. It isn't that people who walk in blessing or people who are aligned with Tao or people who are nice or whatever don't use weapons. Of course we do. Of course they do. Of course people who are happy people utilize weapons, but they are avoided first. It isn't like, nothing in the Tao says this does not happen with the master. The master will utilize a weapon if it comes to that. If it comes to a point where you can't avoid using a weapon, you will pick up a weapon and you will use it. And it even talks about how the master will use a weapon. If compelled to use them. It doesn't mean that they will be, so it's not when compelled to use them, if compelled to use them. She uses restraint. There is no glory if weapons are used. Her enemy is not evil, but human, like herself. How can she see glory in their slaughter? They're learning a lesson just as you are. Now, you're not the one to deliver that message. You're going to be a part of that message because of how you respond. Now, are you going to be a part of that lesson, so that they double down on their errors of that lesson? Or are you going to be part of the lesson that opens them up to the possibility of changing and growing? If compelled to use them, she uses restraint. Now, restraint is an interesting word here because it can mean a lot of things. Sometimes restraint means you do it quickly and deftly, right? You don't torture the person that you're utilizing this weapon against. You try and make it quick and swift. Because you're not trying to draw out the use of your weapon. You're not trying to draw out the use of whatever it is that you're using as a weapon, whether it's a physical weapon or whether it's your words or whether it's your actions or whether it's whatever. Whatever you have, if you are compelled to weaponize something in your life, you use restraint. And I'm using the word when, but in here, once again, if you are compelled to use, then you use restraint. There is no glory in victory if weapons are used. Her enemy is not evil, but human like herself. And I think that's one thing that we do so much in the world today is make things evil. Right? We put that moniker on so many things like, oh, that's evil. And because it's evil, it gives me free rein because I'm a morally ethical good person. Because I can't see myself as evil. Because evil is so separate from me. And if I act in a way that is evil, it's because, I was engaged in something like I didn't get enough sleep, or I was on drugs, or I was drunk, or I was, I had a rush of blood, or whatever you want to say. You were the victim of something that turned into an action that was evil. But you aren't evil. You're the victim of that, right? And that's why it makes it so easy for us to call other people evil, call other, groups of people evil, because that will then band people together. But that is a weapon, and it's not using it very, very subtly or very deftly. We're just whipping it around. We're just saying, oh, that's evil. Catherine Taylor's going to join me. Yeah, so we'll return to 31. Catherine, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm a little nervous today. I have an interview.
You
So,
have an interview for a good interview, or
yeah, for a
okay,
promotion. So,
for
I'm
a
hoping.
promotion? Yay!
Yeah.
Congratulations!
Well, I thought it was tomorrow, so I'm not exactly prepared.
Whoa! Well,
I
it's
just figured
early
out.
enough that you can adjust, I hope.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, good. Do you mind me asking what you do?
I do data entry. So I work
Okay.
for the Missouri Schools for the Severely Disabled
Oh.
in the central office. And so I just process invoices for the therapies they receive.
Mm-hmm.
But this interview is for an executive assistant, which is higher up,
Yeah.
to the deputy commissioner of the Division of Learning Services.
Oh.
So
Well, I'm sure you'll impress.
I hope, I hope. I mean, I get good feedback from my bosses and stuff, so I'm hoping that helps.
Yeah, that's good. Do you happen to know, like you're already in the organization? I'm sure are they
Sure.
only interviewing internally, or?
Yeah, this was internal applicants only.
Okay. Well. Let's see what the Dow might have to shed on us today. Like, let's pick a number and see if the Dow has any help for us in terms of moving into the position of having the interview, because that's the next thing, right? It's not about like having expectation. The Dow never talks about like, oh, you should have good expectations. No, it's like,
Yeah,
no, we want to relieve ourselves of expectations so we don't have to be nervous. um but there are certain things, because we want things, we have desires, we have all of these
sure.
things that kind of follow us. So
Well,
so
I
let's
like to
see.
look at it as practice.
That's
So,
right. Everything is practice. Everything we do is practice. I remember telling my nephew one time when he was going through a stage of lying. I was just like, "Do you want to be do you want to lie when you become an adult?" And he was like, "Well, no." And I was just like, "Well, you're practicing lying right now." And I was like, "You're practicing to be an adult, and this is what you're practicing. So you just might
yeah,
wanna like readjust in terms of like what it is you're actually putting your energy towards trying to do."
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So remind me what the number choices are. The numbers.
Between 1 and 81.
Oh, well, I was gonna pick 81, so that works.
Oh, well, 81. Off we go. 81 is entitled Blossoming Leader. Look at that.
Yeah,
That's a nice title. And this is going to be probably pretty important for your interview, because it's about words. So this one, 81, reads, "True words may not sound comforting, yet comfort those they are meant for. However, comforting words are never true. Connected to source, there is no desire to prove. Desire to prove only exposes separateness from source. The master's possessions are not part of the manifestation. Giving away her possessions, she only receives more. Tao blesses everyone in this way. When this blessing can be received, domination and power will yield, while all people will blossom as leaders." What are your thoughts?
um, well, it sounds like uh, all people will blossom as leaders. It sounds like I have the capability to be a leader at
Hmm.
any point, based on the decisions I make and the actions I take.
And what's interesting here is this third line. However, comforting words are never true. What this reads to me as, so true words may not sound comforting, yet comfort those they are meant for. Yet, however, comforting words are never true. Now, although we're talking about comforting words, I want to look at this specifically from the vantage point of your interview.
Okay.
So, true words may not sound, um, I don't know what word I can put in here, but what I want to say is true words may not sound like exactly the right words you should be saying in an interview, yet the words that you're saying are going to, um, the words that you say when you are just saying, when you're just being you, are
Hmm.
going to be the exact words that need to be said to the person that you're being interviewed by. However, if you preconceive all of your answers before you step in, those are not the right answers. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's like I interpret that as it's better to be your most authentic self at all times.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And allow what is going to come out of your mouth. And don't try too much to control that. Now, if you have a cursing problem, as I do, you might want to be able to kind of practice not doing that so much. However,
I've yeah, I've pretty much practiced not cursing at work. So
okay, that's good.
I feel like that's
So,
not professional.
So, what's interesting to me about this is, have you ever been in a conversation with someone and said something and a third party hears it and says, "Oh, I can't believe you said that." And then you start thinking about it, and then you go back to the person that you spoke and you said, "Hey, how did you take this when I said it? Because I didn't mean it this way." And they were like, "Oh, no, I would have never thought of it that way. This is how I thought of it." When that sort of thing happens, that's what this means. True words may not sound comforting to someone else, yet comfort those they are meant for. So you're talking to an individual and they know where you're coming from because you're the one that's connected with them. But if you're constantly trying to come up with the right words to say to comfort somebody, you're always going to trip over your words or come off wrong or, "Oh, I didn't mean it that way." You know what I mean? Because you're trying to manipulate your words so that they're heard in a certain way. But like you said, if you can approach this interview just as you and allow doubt to fill your voice as you open your mouth, just intuition, allow yourself to just speak from the heart, then they're going to be the exact words that the person who's interviewing you or the group of people that are interviewing you need to hear in order to, and you're not going to know that, but Tao does, because we're all connected. We're all one.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Um, and I feel like if you're thinking too much about what you're going to say in response or how you want to be heard, you're not actually listening to the other person either.
Absolutely. You're speaking to hear yourself talk rather than to answer the question.
Yeah, they call that active listening or something.
Yeah. The next part, it was popped out at me for you as well, because it's this idea to prove, right? You go into an interview, why? So you can prove you're the right person for the job.
Mm.
But I would push back on that approach a little bit and say, if this is something that is good for you, then you'll get it. Otherwise, you're open to going where Tao is going to take you. So it says, connected to source, there is no desire to prove. You don't need to prove to them. You are right for this job or not, but there's nothing to prove in there. And when I
Yeah,
say or not, that's not because you aren't qualified for it. Maybe you're not right for it because the executive that you'll be assisting is an asshole, and you don't want to you don't want to be engaged with them anyway.
right. If it's the right job for me, then I'll be the one they pick, you know?
That's right.
Otherwise, it's just practice for another interview. That is the right one.
Absolutely. So connected to source, when you go into this interview with this openness about not having to use the right words and just kind of sit down and be present, listening, not only to them, but listening to your body and how your body is responding, and listening to the words that are coming out of your mouth, being surprised by your own answers. Once you're
Hmm.
connected to source, there's no desire to prove. So when you sit down, you don't have to prove anything to them. You're there just answering questions. Because a desire to prove only exposes separation for source, or it also shows that desperateness, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think this was definitely the right quote for me
Yeah.
for today. That
And
was
at
my
the end, go on.
that was my intuition. It said 81 when I was
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna.
Beautiful. And at the end it says, Tao blesses everyone in this way. So understand that you aren't the only interviewee that is going to be blessed in this way.
Yeah.
But when this blessing can be received, domination and power will yield, which means that you will let go of the desire to have an outcome to this. You'll just have the interview. You'll let go of the nervousness. You'll just be able to kind of sit and observe yourself being interviewed. And that just having that will give you so much more confidence to sit down in the interview Like if we were to look at it from the manifestation aspect, and all people would blossom as leaders. So what's going to happen is you're going to sit down and you're already going to be a leader in that room.
Yeah, yeah, I like that.
Yeah. All right, so let's
Okay,
take a deep breath together really quick.
okay.
I think you're going to have a really great day.
Thank you. I am going to have a great day. I really enjoyed this.
Well, good. I'm
Thanks,
glad.
John.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Oop, I could, oop, you got it. Okay. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, blossoming leader. It's such a good one. It's also interesting. I just want to bring this up. Uh, words. Words are something that the Tao starts with. Chapter 1 says, words cannot express Tao. And here, we're talking about a blossoming leader. And a blossoming leader is someone who is constantly allowing this moment to speak to them in one way or another, right? Allowing this moment to be what it is. True words may not sound comforting, yet comfort those that are meant for. However, comforting words are never true. If you go out of your way to say something comforting, if you go out of the way to say the right thing, it is not going to be the right thing. True words may not sound right, yet they're right for those who you're saying it to. I always tell people, what I say and what you hear have nothing to do with one another. What I'm saying is coming from me. What you're hearing is coming from you. I know it sounds and looks in the manifestation like it's coming from me because you're hearing my words, but you're the one defining them. You're the one looking at these words. You're the one that's expressing like what I'm saying. You're the one that's defining it. That's why we talk about judges so much in politics. It's like they're the ones that define the law. Who cares who fucking writes them? It's the people who define the laws that make the biggest impact on your life. Because you can write whatever you want. It's how it's defined that actually makes the biggest difference. And that's the listener. The listener is the one that's defining the words you're saying. So even though you might be sitting in that interview and saying something and you're like, wow, I don't really know what these words mean. But then the people listening, the people that you're speaking to do, because we're all connected. We're all one entity, and it's going to work out. It's going to be a beautiful day. Catherine's going to have a great day today. She's going to be able to walk into that interview with a nice deep breath and sit down, introduce herself, talk to some folks, answer a few questions, and then go get a coffee. And life is good. And whatever happens from all that is going to happen. And she's going to be open to it. And that's going to be great. Here it says, connected to source, there is no desire to prove. How often are we trying to prove ourselves? Desire to prove only exposes separation from source. Desire to prove only exposes separation from the person you're speaking to. If I'm talking to somebody and I want to prove myself to them, I'm not being present with who they are. I am competing with who they are. And they are me. I'm constantly competing with myself. I'm constantly competing with people. I'm constantly doing these things. And why? Because I have some desire to prove for some reason, because I don't feel like I'm enough. And that's important. It's important to recognize. This is a feeling that I'm carrying, and I don't need to prove myself to someone else because of a feeling I'm carrying. I don't need to put this on somebody else. It's not what we want to do. We don't want to put our baggage on the backs of other people. The master's possessions are not part of the manifestation. So this is where some verses sometimes do this. They just kind of seem to take a left turn. So let's explore what this looks like. And from what has been said so far, right? So we have the two things that have been said, right? True words are going to communicate to the people that they're meant to communicate with. And there is no desire to prove. There's no desire to prove that you're a comforting person by saying the comforting thing. Oh, except by condolences, except by condolences. When someone says, like, if they're speaking from the heart, they're just like, oh, I'm sorry to hear about the passing of your, whatever, like, and, but they're, but maybe you say something about them being out of misery or whatever. And the person's, like, and maybe it sounds even, maybe you say it in a way that sounds like cruel. It's just like, well, she's not in pain anymore, but neither are you. Maybe that doesn't sound comforting. Maybe that sounds like attacking. Maybe that sounds judgmental. But the person who hears it goes, oh, I'm glad you said that because, everybody's telling me how great this person was. And I'm, and I was for years, I was caring for, for this person, and it was so hard. And I have a lot of, relief in my body that they've passed, because now I don't have to do these things anymore that I used to have to do. There's always a double-edged sword with things like that, like the passing of a loved one, or when things happen, it's like, oh, I'm happy. There's a part of me that's happy that they passed. Or, like when you have a child and that child keeps you up at night and you curse the child, it's like, oh, you feel bad about that. But then you talk to someone who's just like, yeah, well, kids are little monsters or whatever. And they just say something that, could be seen from a third party perspective as, oh, that's not what they want to hear. That's not nice to the child or whatever. But it's like, there's honesty there. There's honesty that I'm connecting with this person. Once again, true words may not sound right, but they're right for those they're meant for. However, comforting words are never right. Connected to source, there's no desire to prove. And then there's this, the master's possessions are not part of the manifestation, giving away her possessions. So what is she giving away? What is she giving away before in this verse? Giving away like comforting words? Giving away the desire to prove? Giving away her possessions, she only receives more. What are these possessions that she's giving away as we look at it from this perspective? Maybe her desire to control, her desire to manipulate, giving away her possessions. What does she possess? She possesses her grace. She possesses her ability to connect. All of the things that she's doing when she doesn't preconceive her comforting words, when she doesn't preconceive her answer, she gives away the ability to know what she's going to say. She gives away her identity. Connected to source, there's no desire to prove. How does that relate to her possessions? Well, maybe her possessions are what she's trying to prove. She's trying to prove, like, Catherine was here earlier talking about being interviewed for a job. I'm trying to prove that I'm right for the job. Well, let's give that away. Let's not possess that. Let's not try to prove that I'm the right person for the job. I'm just going to give away my possessions being my grace, my possessions being my ability to be a leader, my possessions to be the right person, my possession of everything. Like, just give it away. Just don't go in there knowing who you are. Go in there knowing that you're being held. And that's enough. Tao blesses everyone in this way. So nobody has to have an identity. You don't have to have an identity. Just be who you are. And Tao is going to bless you and everyone else. So if you're going into an interview, recognize that everybody else going into that interview is going in with the same thing. We were talking earlier about weaponizing, and if you sit there and you think, oh, I hope that they spill I hope they spill coffee on that white dress because they're going to go in there and they're not going to look as good, and I'll get an advantage. Well, that's weaponizing. Recognize that we're all in this together. And doing the interview, like Catherine said, practice, but also play. This is fun. It's fun to be interviewed. If you're not going into it with the idea you have to prove something, if you're not going in it with the idea that you have to get something, with you not, like when you're desperate for a job, every interview is work. When you're just doing it for fun, it's just fun. I mean, I've submitted applications to things that I was just like, oh, it'd be fun to kind of go through some interviews. Let me go ahead and just submit some applications. And then when I'm in the interview, I'm like, hey, look, you should know that I'm not really interested in taking this job, although I can be persuaded to. So let's have this interview. It's just fun. It's nice to interact, Tao blesses everyone in this way. When this blessing can be received, big part of this verse, very small line. When this blessing can be received, you can't always, we're not always open enough to receive the blessing that we're being held. We're not always open to receiving the blessing of the inspiration of the words that we're saying. We're not always open to connecting to Source so that we do not have a desire to prove. Especially in these bodies, the manifestation is so willing to pit us against each other so that we have things to prove. I'm going to prove this and you're going to prove that, and we're going to prove these things to each other, and I'm better and you're better in my life and your life, and and I'm going to weaponize, as we were talking earlier, weaponize my words so that you doubt yourself. And that it's like, oh God, we get into these real big tizzies all around trying to prove something or not being able to receive a blessing. Look, there's a blessing. Your life, and there's a verse in the Tao that says, life is a gift received from Tao, and everything is sustained in support of that gift. So all of the people that are interviewing for the same job Catherine is are being sustained in support of the gift of her life. Because even though we think we want a life that is filled with just no challenge, we just want to receive everything. I just went to Spain with a child that has never been challenged in her life. She's 19 and she has absolutely no desire to see the world in any way other than how she's already experienced it. Because when she's in a place that doesn't speak her language, she judges them. She's the one in Spain and she's upset that nobody speaks English. I'm sorry. That isn't how it works, right? Why? Because she hasn't experienced challenge in her life. Trust me, the challenge of going into an interview, the challenge of being able to look at yourself and say, well, what can I do here, right? I don't have to prove that I'm right. And that's a big deal, right? So you have to be ready to receive the blessing. And when you're open to receiving the blessing, you're open to receiving the lesson, and you grow. Eventually, you will release your need to dominate. You will release your need to be powerful, and you will blossom as a leader. And will you be a leader because you're telling people what to do? No, you're going to be a leader because you're living your life and other people happen to just observe that. And when they observe it, they start to embody it as well. So that was 81. Catherine, thank you so much for coming up and joining me for that verse. If anybody else has a number you want to select, please let me know. Come up. We'll chat a little bit the way Catherine and I did. We simply just, all I did was ask what was going on. She's having an interview. She picked 81. We talked about it. It was all connected. And like I said, just like an oracle deck or a tarot deck, you pick a card in this, because we're not together. You pick a number and we go through that together. And we break it down and we try and see how it relates to what you're going through. So I picked 41 today of Weapons and Mourning. Weapons are horrible tools. The master avoids weaponizing anything. Weapons promote fear and separation, avoided by those who walk in blessing, embraced by those who walk in delusion. If compelled to use them, she uses restraint. There is no glory in victory if weapons are used. Her enemy is not evil, but human, like herself. How can she see glory in their slaughter? When the master is compelled to engage a weapon, she does so gravely and filled with compassion, knowing that this is the first state of her mourning. The idea is that, like one of the things that are popping out to me a little differently this time than when I read it earlier is the idea that if you are drawing a weapon, whether that is you're going to weaponize your words, or you're going to weaponize your actions, or you're going to actually have a physical weapon in your hand, the person that you're using them against is your quote unquote enemy. And you're doing this because they are evil in one way or another, right? Her enemy is not evil, but human like herself, right? That's categorizing them. You categorize them so that I can justify the use of the weapon that I'm wielding. But here the master is like, how can she see glory in their slaughter? Because she knows that they're human like herself. They're faulty, just like you're faulty. And if you're open to being different, if you're open to not knowing, not being right, then you will be able to see that other people have that as well. Just like when I went to Spain with my niece, it's like, oh, yes, it's going to be difficult for her, and I hope she's open to receiving this lesson. However, I also know that she's going to grow and change over the next 10 years, and it just has to sink in. She's probably going to turn out to be an amazing globetrotter that speaks a number of languages because of the experience that she had in Spain where she couldn't communicate with anybody. Right? That's going to be a lesson, and that's exhausting. Like, she spent a lot of time in her room because she had a way out. And if she didn't have a way out, she would have become overwhelmed, and who knows. But hopefully she takes this lesson and she does something with it, whether she sees it or not. It's not up to me. We talked about a lot of this already earlier. So for those of you who were listening earlier, and for those of you who have just come in and might be interested in exploring this, you can check out the beginning of this talk. But I'm just going to go right to the bottom. When the master is compelled to engage a weapon, she does so gravely and filled with compassion. Is that how we approach weaponizing our words, or talking down to somebody, or cutting someone down? I mean, last week there were a couple people in the House of Representatives that were just weaponizing their words and making fun of each other. Are these the best we got? Are these people like, I mean, they're children. They're children that are childish, and they're not recognizing what their words are doing and what's going to happen when they come out of their mouth. They're not utilizing those words gravely, filled with compassion. There is no compassion for one another. That's a big deal, compassion. Do you have compassion for the person who you're going to raise a weapon against? Do you have compassion for the fact that they're human and that they're hurting and that they're, like that? There's that, like meme that just says, you don't know what people are going through, so be kind. That's kind of what this is saying. Like, be compassionate. And if you do have to wield a weapon, do so with restraint, and do so gravely filled with compassion. Gravely, meaning this isn't what you wanted to do. You didn't wake up wanting to weaponize your words. This isn't what you want. And again, if compelled to use them. This is not saying when you are inevitably going to have to pick up a weapon. This is if you are compelled to use them, you use restraint. And you do so gravely, filled with compassion, knowing this is the first state of her mourning. What does that mean? When we get to this place of like having wielded a weapon, whether it's our words or our actions or like a physical weapon, this is the first state of your mourning. This is the first state of you having to mourn, having used a weapon against another human being, against a person who, like you, is just trying to live their life. Yes, many people have adjusted their lives so that they align with things that maybe are, greedy or whatever. And that's fine. If you are living your life and are attracting and engaging with people like that, that really has a lot to do with you. So this is why we look at our enemy as a part of ourselves that needs attention, right? So that person that keeps getting our goat, we want to recognize in ourselves what that is. Now, if they don't quit, eventually we have to wield a weapon of some sort. It's true. But as we engage, we want to be able to let them off the hook and look at ourselves and go, how am I expressing this in my life? And why is it that I'm attracting? How am I attracting this into my life? And we might have to wield a weapon sooner before later, and that's fine too. But again, once we wield a weapon, there is mourning that needs to take place. And we have to say, how can I reflect on having picked up this weapon of my words, picked up this weapon of my actions, picked up, when we're in relationships, how often do we weaponize things, weaponize our actions? We say, I'm not going to talk to you. Right? I'm going to give you the silent treatment because I'm angry. That's weaponizing. It's weaponizing your actions. Or I'm going to say something about your mother. That's weaponizing your words. Or I'm not going to cook I'm not going to cook your favorite food for this day or whatever. I'm not going to engage in the way that I'm quote unquote supposed to because we have an agreement, right? That I'm going to be this and you're going to be that. And I'm not going to do that because you didn't do anything for me or you forgot something and now I'm angry at you. This is all weaponizing. And we're weaponizing against the people that we love the most. And do we recognize this as weaponizing? Do we recognize that this isn't really what we want to be doing? When the master is compelled to engage a weapon, she does so gravely and filled with compassion. Is that how we're approaching this? Or are we just trying to get someone back? Are we trying to prove something, as we read in 81 with Catherine? Trying to prove that we're right. Trying to prove that we were hurt by you, and so we're going to weaponize something. And when we do wield a weapon within our relationship, do we recognize that this is a state of mourning, that we hurt the person that we love, that we literally picked up a weapon against someone that we love? I mean, I've been in relationships where people have just yelled at me because I'm who I am. And I'm like, oh, wait, you're the one that's supposed to love me. You're the one that said, I'm the one that you choose, and now you're seeing something that you want me to change about that person. And you're picking up a weapon in order to get me to change who I am. But that's not who I am. I am this person, and you don't like this about me because it makes you feel threatened. Your feeling threatened is not me picking up a weapon. You're picking up a weapon because you feel threatened is that. And that's why it's our responsibility to be able to do our own growth and to be able to recognize that, oh, wait, my feeling threatened doesn't mean that I'm being threatened. Remember, words are particular. Remember what we read in, not words are particular, but in 81, in Blossoming Leaders, said true words may not sound comforting, yet comfort those they are meant for. However, comforting words are never true. That relates back to, like if I'm going to say something to somebody and my partner is, feels like that's a threat to her and she gets mad at me, well, that's about you. It has nothing to do with me. I didn't say anything to put you in danger. Now maybe I did do that, and that's weaponizing, right? I'm weaponizing and manipulating and doing all of these things behind. But if I love this person, I wouldn't be doing that. And that's a big deal. Like understanding, like, do I love this person? Do I, or am I going to try and manipulate? Am I going to try and do these things that are not so, I don't know, upstanding? Okay, so we got to read through 31 and 81 today. If anybody else has a number that you want to select, I'd love to bring you up. Otherwise, I'm going to start to sign off. My name is Martin John. My profile has all the information that you would need about me. The verses that I read are from my translation of the Tao Te Ching, and you can find your copy at my website, martinjohn.com. You can find the links, once again, in my profile. I have 23 years clean and sober, and a large aspect of what I talk about is the idea of like recovering yourself. So recovering to who you are rather than recovering from something specifically. Of course, that's a process, and we have to recover from first. Zakia, is that right? How are you? Zakia Arib? I have you up on stage with me. You can speak to me if you have a microphone. You have muted yourself, and you're back. How are you? Nope. You're probably trying to figure out how to get off stage. That often happens. A lot of people are new to Noom Vibe. What I do, I'll drop you off in a second, just in case you are trying to figure out how to connect your microphone. If you this program works very specifically to invite people up and chat a little bit about what's going on in your life, and then I ask you to pick a number between 1 and 81, and we'll talk about that verse of the Tao Te Ching. If you're not familiar with the Tao Te Ching, it's an ancient text written about 600 BCE, presumably by a guy Lao Tzu, and it is coming out of relationship and into logic. So, and it is essentially, don't forget these things. It is a document left behind that says, as we move into the world of logic, don't forget that weapons are horrible tools. Don't forget that you have nothing to prove. Don't forget that you are being blessed. So Zakia, thank you for coming up. I'm going to go ahead and drop you off so
You
that.
hear me now? Sorry, can we
Oh,
try one more
there
time?
you are. I gotcha. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Good. I'm glad you figured that out. I don't know what happened, but
I had the headset on and then I removed it. Now we are good.
oh, okay. Well, I'm glad that you
Yeah,
got to step up. This is so good. So what's
yeah,
going on
so
with
that's
you
good,
these
thank
days?
you. I'm excited. I'm excited to join it. This is my first time.
Yeah. And is this your first time speaking on a stage on Noom Vibe?
Yeah, this is my first time. Downloaded the app this morning and
Hmm.
I joined the conversation. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm so glad that you joined me. So, I mean, you've been listening for a little bit, so you're familiar with what we do. So what's going on in your life right now?
Right now, I'm going through a transition in my career, and I feel like it's overwhelming since it's taking longer than I thought. It's been going since January. So I thought I would find a job right after I left my previous one, but it's been like a while. So I don't know what's happening in my life. I feel like the universe is talking to me sometimes,
Yeah.
but maybe stress. Maybe just
Okay.
stress. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's like I can feel that stress. Like actually, I can like literally feel it, like right here underneath my rib cage, like in that solar
Mhm.
plexus area. So I'm gonna put my hand on my solar plexus, and I'd like you to do the same. I just want to take a deep breath into your hand. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. We're gonna just take another moment, just another little beat, and then I'm gonna ask you to pick a number between 1 and 81. Okay. You want to pick a number? Get it?
77.
77. The bending of a bow. Okay, this one is a little longer. I'll let you know when we're done. It's not too long. It's like 200 words, maybe tops. I'm just looking at it and just taking a guess. So Tao acts on the world as the bending of a bow. The top is forced down when the bottom is moved up. It is impossible for one to act without the other responding. Unlike man, Tao is patient and neutral, quietly adjusting excess and deficiencies, taking from what is too much and giving to what isn't enough. Ordinary men go against Tao, taking resources from areas that are deficient, giving resources to areas that compulsively consume. The master knows all things are being adjusted. Although she cannot always see it in action, she has faith that it is working through her. In this way, she allows her actions to unfold, neither dwelling on them nor taking credit. Aligned with Tao, they complement all things. So what I'd like to ask is, what lines or words stood out to you about that?
Hmm. Like, I don't remember the exact phrase,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like where it's talking about something that was down, that was like meant to be up, or like what sounds like it's going to be worse, but it's really like making you go into through something so you can be in a better place, in a better future. This is how I look at my situation now. So this is what I hear in
Yeah, no,
everything
and
I.
that's it's always that way. So the bending of a bow, it's
Mhm,
interesting when we look at the bending of a bow, like when we're going to shoot an arrow or whatever. You know,
mhm,
one thing we do like is the bottom is forced down while the top is forced up. And this takes
mhm,
tension, right? There's
mhm,
increased tension as one has to adjust for the other. And so that's the
mhm,
tension that you're feeling. And maybe you're focused on one aspect, like the job aspect, while the other
mhm,
aspect is your free time or your ability to hear yourself without the
mhm.
influence of a boss and to really speak to who you are and what you're doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like whatever I do right now, I feel like unworthy since I don't have like the income. I don't bring like I feel like I don't have value since I don't bring my 50% to this relationship or this household.
Right,
Even
right.
though my partner is so supportive, I feel like I have to be there and do something to prove myself to be worthy.
You know,
So this is where the stress come from.
yeah. So, unlike man, like this is the next line, right? Unlike man, Tao is patient and neutral. Tao doesn't care if you have a job or not. It's neutral, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is like your value, and I can feel this, right? Like your value is
Hmm.
so much deeper than your ability to bring in finance. Like
Thank you.
who you are is valuable. Now I know you, because I can hear it, right? Like you
Mhm.
you aren't really sure that that's true, right? Like you're like, well, but
It's
but
like
but
I cannot, yeah, it's like something that I don't accept. I don't accept like to be I am a lion sign, and I always
Oh,
view
you're a
myself as
Leo.
a
I see.
leader,
Yeah.
like the perfection. So I don't accept like me without a job, me not looking good, me not having something.
Right. So here's the thing,
Yeah.
right? Like, so unlike man, Tao is patient and neutral, quietly adjusting excesses and deficiencies, taking from what is
Hmm.
too much and giving to what isn't enough. So when I
Hmm.
look at you as this,
Hmm.
you're Eastern European. Where are you from?
I am from North Africa.
North Africa. Oh, I got that way wrong. Okay.
That's
um,
okay.
yeah. So you're, like you're this powerful, right? Like successful. I'm guessing because of what I'm hearing. You're successful. You're beautiful. You're fit. You probably supply your home with beautiful things. You probably have a beautiful aesthetic. And when I look at that,
Hmm.
Tao is going to take from what is too much
Hmm.
and give to what isn't enough. So it is taking some of your value and it is
Hmm.
from one aspect of your life and giving it to another part of your life, which means this intrinsic connection to everything, this, this intangible value. Now, I'm willing to bet that
Hmm.
if you were able to embrace value within yourself that is not um, quantifiable,
Hmm.
then you would start to see more results come your way in the way that you want them, in the way that because right now you're being given my guess is you actually have a lot of opportunity
Hmm.
to, I don't want to say this in a way that makes it sound bad, but do nothing. And like you have a lot of opportunity to be creative. You have a lot of opportunity to write. You have a lot of opportunity to maybe draw or take walks or do things. And yet, do you do that?
Yeah, yeah, sometimes, but like, yeah, you're right. So I have a lot of opportunity. I have a lot of free time now that I don't have like a permanent job, but I always try to do something like beside, like side hustle to fill my time, like not to feel free, not to feel like empty doing nothing because I don't like that. Like for me, going for a walk, it's a waste of time. I have to go for a walk if I go to the store and do something.
Oh dear.
Like I have to double task.
See,
That's how I
this is the
feel.
thing. You are the valuable thing.
Yeah,
And like the stress that you're feeling
yeah.
is because it's like you said, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming because you keep, like, as Tao is trying to get
Mhm.
you to see your own value, you're saying, no, my value is in my action. I'm going to do more. And then as you do more,
Mhm.
you stress more
That's true.
because there's no result in your doing more. Why? Because it's not aligned right now. It's forced.
Yeah.
And it's forced only by you.
Yeah. I always find myself like multitasking, taking two classes at the same time, doing two side hustle jobs at the same time, just
So
because I don't
here.
have a permanent job. And I feel like, sorry, I feel like whatever I do, I'm not good enough as I used to be. So I
Oh,
try to do more.
wait. So here's the next line. Ordinary
Mhm.
men go against Tao. And we're just going to put you in this category right now. Taking
Mhm.
resources from areas that are deficient and
Mhm.
giving resources to areas that compulsively consume. What area of your life is compulsively consuming? And as I'm hearing you, you got two side hustles, you got another class, and you're online, like doing all of the
Yeah,
the courses and the workshops and the things to be better, be better, be better. And all you're doing is
that's
you're
true.
giving all of your resources to these areas of your life that are compulsively consuming things. However, where are you getting that energy? You're getting that energy because you're taking resources from areas that are deficient. And what area is deficient? The area that knows you have value. The area that that gives you the freedom to just take a nap. That gives you
Mm-hmm.
the
I
freedom
never
to
took
take a
enough.
walk and look at birds and literally
Yeah,
stop and smell the flowers and to be in
yeah,
love with your life as it is right now.
yeah.
Can I
Like
ask you
deep
how
inside,
old you are?
I am 44, turning
44. Okay.
45 this summer. Yeah.
Okay. I only ask
So
because
deep
there are certain
inside,
ages that have
yeah.
different transitional stages, but go on.
Sorry, deep inside, I feel like I'm transitioning, like you said, but I feel like it's the universe talking to me, saying, "Slow down, smell the roses." But I'm
Yeah,
saying, "No, we don't have time to smell the roses."
you do. You absolutely do. The roses are here for you.
Yeah.
You know, like I mentioned this earlier in my talk, life is a gift received from Tao, and everything is sustained in support of that gift. Those
Hmm.
flowers, literally, if you get to see those flowers, because they only bloom,
Hmm.
flowers only bloom for a couple days.
That's true.
If you get to see that flower is being sustained for your enjoyment,
Hmm.
for you to literally
Hmm.
smell, maybe pick and bring into your home to make your home a little bit brighter, rather than having the doom and gloom of I am not contributing to this home in the proper way, like all of that.
Yeah,
Like
that's always me.
there is you in Zakia, is that how I pronounce it?
Zakia, yeah, correct.
Zakia. And so you,
Mhm.
Zakia, have our entire life we live under the influence of things. When we're born, we live under the influence of our parents, and then we go to school. And my guess is you're a firstborn, is that correct?
I am like the middle child.
You are a middle child. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You sound very much like a firstborn.
Yeah, because my parents treat me as the firstborn. Since my older siblings, they did not go to school, they did not have like good jobs. So I grew up. I
Ah.
was the first one who went to college. I was the first to. I was the one who knows how to read the medical prescriptions from
Oh,
my mom.
sweetheart. I
I was the
see.
one
Like
who take them to
this
the
makes
bank or whatever. Yeah,
so okay. So I'm gonna break this down for you really quick. Um,
yeah,
you have a lot of responsibility, and you have
correct.
responsibility, and your parents loved you differently than they loved your
Hmm.
siblings because
That's
in a
true.
different
I was
way,
always first. Yeah,
right? And the way
I
that
was
they
always
loved you.
first.
Go on.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I was always put first in my within my siblings. Through my parents' eyes, and I was always the one trustworthy, the knowledgeable person, the person who does the right thing. She's never wrong. So they expect from me too much, like so much, so I have to
Yeah.
keep up on that.
Okay. So this is what I usually talk about as living under the influence.
Hmm.
Okay. So you are currently living under the influence of this idea that your value is attached to your success. And your
Hmm.
success, as it is seen not by you, but by your parents.
Hmm.
So that means good grades. If
Yeah,
you don't
correct.
get good grades, then
I felt
we are
shame.
not going to invest in you.
Yeah, I feel ashamed. I feel like very embarrassed to tell my parents I did not have a good grades. I have to be the first. I was always the first in my class room. I
Right.
was even like in college and university, I was the first back there. Back then in Algeria, I get engineer degree, and then I moved here and I get master degree.
Yeah.
And I was doing good. I was working with a big pharmaceutical company. Then I lost my job.
And that, see, I was talking earlier about resilience and challenges. And the thing is you're in a state right now where you're being challenged. And it was not easy for you to be in the front of the class, in the front of the family, in front of the companies that you work in. It's not easy to be first.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
and because you got to recognize there are millions behind you, right?
Hmm.
Like when you're first, there are more spots than first,
Hmm. Hmm.
and a lot more. you know? And as soon as you become second, you start to be like, oh, I want that first spot again. But now
Yeah.
you're seeing yourself sort of like in the middle of the pack.
I
You're
feel
like,
like
wait,
I'm a loser. I feel like I'm the
yeah,
bottom lake.
right.
Yeah.
And so this is an important time for you to really look at what you see as success. You've lived 44 years under the influence of your parents and under the influence of certain ideas of other people.
Mhm.
My guess is you haven't even asked what success is for you.
Yeah, I don't think I did what I like. I did what makes me first and makes
Right.
me better.
You
Engineer
no
that
no no
sounds
no.
good, so
You
it's
did what
engineer.
makes you look better to other people.
Correct.
You didn't do what's better because you don't know what's better because you have been under
That's
the
true.
influence of so many other people already. And
That's true.
this is an opportunity for you to, like, if your
Mhm.
partner doesn't want you to not do anything, but your partner does
Yeah,
want you to love yourself. And the thing
that's true.
is,
Mhm.
one of the biggest issues that I'm seeing, Zakia, is that
Mhm.
you love what you do more than who you are.
That's true. I always plan my day or see my day is worthy or I did good or happy about my day if I did everything that's expected from me and everybody in the household is happy because I'm bringing income, because I cleaned the house, because I shopped, because I did the extra mile. This is
Oh.
how I see my day. This is how I sleep better. If I don't do all of that, I feel like I'm a loser.
Do you know the solar plexus? Do you know that spot right underneath your rib cage?
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to just put your hand there really quick. This is an area of your life that needs a lot of support.
Hmm.
When you feel pain at the end of the day, do you feel it in this area?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want you to just hold that right there. And I can feel sadness.
Hmm.
There's so
Sadness
much.
because I feel like my life, I'm already 44 and I did not accomplish all the things I thought I would be in
Oh,
my life.
sweetheart.
Even though I still have time, but I feel like I have to rush. I know time.
Okay, so I want you to relax your shoulders because they're tense now too.
I feel tense in my shoulders all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I
Okay.
feel like something is on there, like a bird or something,
Yeah.
like a weight is on my
Yeah.
shoulder.
No, I can feel that. I can feel that. So this message here, the bending of a bow, is one you need to be patient because one thing is
Mhm.
is patience. Like you don't want to start thinking that you don't have time. You have plenty of time because
Mhm.
the thing is you're right in one aspect. If you think you're
Mhm.
going to power your way through this life and accomplish everything you want, because my guess
Mhm.
is everything that you've accomplished so far means nothing
Mhm. Yeah,
because you have to
that's
accomplish
true.
something else. And so
Yeah, because I
if
lost
it
everything. I feel like
means,
I lost losing my job. Then means I lost everything for
right,
me. Like even though I know I may find
yeah,
another one, but I feel like I lost everything at this moment. It's not nothing makes value except for my children and my partner, my
right,
family.
yeah. And the thing is like you need constant reassurance that you're valuable, which means you need a promotion, you need a good grade, you need a good
Yeah,
test score, you need your child to do well in school. You need your child or your
yeah,
husband to get a promotion. You need
that's
all of
true.
these things everywhere you look. And the thing is you need it constantly.
Yeah,
Even if that just
I feel
means
like
a delicious meal.
yeah, I feel like whatever was expected from me from my parents growing up, I am expecting that the same thing from from my kids and my partner.
And that's not
Like
fair.
that's not fair. Yeah.
I want you to really focus on this solar plexus area, this area underneath your rib cage. And when you
Hmm.
like I want you to try to take 30 seconds
Mm-hmm.
and just, once a day, put your
Mm-hmm.
hand over this and breathe into that area. Like just, and don't think I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
it right, I'm doing it wrong, I'm this, I'm that. Like, don't think at all if you can. And when
Yeah.
you do think, just try to stop. Don't judge
Mm-hmm.
yourself. There's too much judgment in your life, and you continue to invest in that judgment by telling
That's
yourself you're
true.
not good enough, you're failing, all of this. And yes, you're going to take 30 seconds and you're going to be unproductive and you're going to breathe. And that is going to be the most productive 30 seconds of your day. I promise you. Because what you're doing is you're caring for yourself. And
Yeah.
although your husband can make money and your kids can love you and all of that kind of stuff, they cannot care for
Yeah.
you the way you can.
That's
And
true.
actually, I don't know if anybody has cared for you in that way in your life. Because there's so much value in being cared for without
Mm-hmm.
wanting anything in return. And the thing is your parents, they wanted results. They wanted
They
results
want to be involved. Yeah.
for their love.
Yeah.
And you deserve to be loved without having
It's
to
interesting.
give any result.
Yeah. That's true.
Patience. And stop taking resources from you to give them to something that's going to give you a paycheck or something that's going to give you a good grade
Yeah.
or some piece of paper that's going to say you're worthy. You are
Yeah.
worthy.
Thank you.
Absolutely. My timer's a little funky, so I only have 33 seconds left for you on my end. Thank you so much for joining me. I just want to say I love you. I hope you hear this and feel a little bit more supported.
Thank you. Thank you for comforting me. And I enjoyed the conversation. I will join next time, I'm sure. I'm not going to take much of your time, but I will join and listen and learn from other experiences. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I love you too. Bye.
Bye. Oh, that was a beautiful exchange. Once again, the Tao is like an oracle. So if you ever wanted to just hear just another perspective of looking at something, there's always space here for that. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Martin John. Check out my profile. You can pick up my copy of the Tao Te Ching on my website, martinjohn.com. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.